I'm going to show you how to make this shape to make one of these precision trainers, which you attach with a bolt through the bottom and up. Can you see that? I don't know if you can see that or not. Anyway, a bolt through the bottom, through the steel. But the difficult part is getting those and that going on. I found 16 inches to be a good length to make out of these. So for each trainer you need 2. Out of this 8-foot board I can make 2 trainers, I believe. And it helps if you've got a 12-inch saw, because that blade can cut all the way through this 4x4 post, which is actually 3.5, all at one time. So there are 4 16-inch sections. That's the amount of wood left. I'll probably do some more with that. Now I'm going to clamp 2 at a time together and drill through them both at once. Alright, we're ready to drill. Got the center marked. We're going to go through the middle of both at once, leaving half crescents for the pipe to sit in. What I've got on here is called a Forstner bit. You can do this using a hole saw. It's going to take longer. You're going to have to stop and dig out the middle part. This is a type of bit that is made to leave a flat-bottomed hole, but it just so happens to destroy all the material as you're going through, so it's a little bit easier for this and you can do it in one pass. That said, they're a little bit hard to work with, so be prepared for a little bit of frustration. There you go. So we have the same 4 pieces with their nice little cutouts for the pipe to sit in, and now we want to do a beveled angle coming off in that direction on either side. This can be an extremely difficult cut if you don't have the right equipment. What I have is a 12-inch saw that is a sliding miter saw, which means you can set angles in addition to cutting a long distance. Setting that at 15 degrees has worked pretty well for me, and then you've got the problem of securing these pieces in place for the cut. This is basically a rip cut with a small angle to it, and what we have here is, for one, it's not even balanced in place. For 2, and much more importantly, not very much of it is hitting the back supports here. This can be extremely dangerous. It's happened to me in the past. I almost broke the saw trying to do a cut like this, where the saw pulls upward on the piece of wood and throws it back. It actually cracked these supports and I've had to rebend them into place. So my idea for securing that is using this arm, which won't quite reach it all the way, along with the same thickness of other wood. You place your board and the scrap board, and additionally another piece of scrap on top of both of them. That allows you to screw your clamp down, hold this in place, and safely saw through this board at an angle without the risk of it flying out and without just having to rely on holding it by hand, which is scary, unsafe, and generally just a bad idea. If you don't have a saw like this, you can do this cut using especially good hand saws like this Japanese style pull saw, which can cut all the way through, or this regular American saw that's pretty well made. But honestly, it's probably not worth the effort by hand. You can leave these blocky. We're going to round the edges off anyway. Okay, if you have a router, route the edges of these with a round over bit. If you don't, at least sand them. If you don't do that, somebody's going to get hurt. Next, you're going to drill holes in these, but you're going to start with a hammer and a punch, because starting to drill a hole into a round tube will drive you crazy because the bit will slide all over the place. This gives you a tiny little divot to start in so it stands still. You're also going to want some kind of lubrication. I'm using vegetable oil because I happen to have it around, and it's good in the shop for taking stain off your hands. And you want your drill bit to be the same size as your bolts. Okay, you're really close to being done. You've drilled a hole in the metal, you've got your hole shape done and a hole pre-drilled into that the bolt will go through. You've got your bolts, and you've got one more problem to solve. One thing is, you don't want the head of the bolt sticking out the bottom, bumping against the ground, and two, it's just not long enough to go all the way through. So you need to countersink it, and you do want it to be this length. To determine how much to countersink it by, go ahead and thread a nut onto the bolt and hang it basically where it's going to live. So that way you know you've got enough thread for it to catch well. It goes through this far, and then that distance is the amount left over that you need to drill out. If you drill out too deep, then you can't go back. So this is a very important thing to measure. Now, you need a bit the size of the washers you're going to use. This is the depth of the bit, not this. And you just can use your fingers to get a line on that level of depth. Compare it to this, and looks like I need to go almost to this edge. In fact, I can probably go to that edge and still have thread to work with. So that's a good guide. So now, drill out this part of the bottom, put the bolt with washers through it, and we'll thread it into the pipe. Alright, this is where things get a little bit tricky. You've got your bolt with the washer already on it, nut. You're going to need a socket and a regular wrench that fit these. what you're eventually going to be doing is holding the nut in here and lining it up to that hole as you lower the bolt down into it that's already in the wood. And when you're working with wet wood like this, which these 4x4s are often pressure treated, and so they wind up really wet when you buy them new, the hole you've drilled out kind of keeps re-shrinking, so the bolt can be really hard to push in there, and you don't want to do it until the end when you know you've got all your measurements right. Hopefully I do. What a pain in the butt. Ugh. Okay, it's coming through. It's extremely dirty, so clean that off. There's your bolt. And I'm going to set the camera to the side so you can see. Well, let's do it this way. And you can watch as I attempt to thread these together. Ooh. When you hear the wood pop, usually you've got enough tension. You don't want to go much past that. It would be hard to split this thing by over tightening, but it would be possible. So don't do it. And now you've got Precisions.